The Kuku Yalanji, also known as Kuku Yalanji, Kuku Yalanji or Kokojlanji, are an Aboriginal Australian people originating from the rainforest regions of far north Queensland. The traditional language of the people is Kuku Yalanji. It has been comprehensively studied, with a dictionary produced by the Hirschbergers and a grammar by Elizabeth Patz. The Kuku Yalanji, according to Norman Tyndale, held roughly 2,200 square miles of territory around the headwaters of the Palmer River. Their land ran east from Palmerville Station to Mount Lucan, and stretched over the southern and western areas of the dividing range as far as the upper Mitchell River. Their eastern limits lay around east to Byerstown, and they were present at Maytown. The Kuku Yalanji, believed to number some 3,000 people, constitute one of the Barmah rainforest peoples. They are reputedly closely related to the Woolpura rainforest dwellers on the plateau in the modern day Mount Windsor National Park. One of the oldest living cultures, the Kuku Yalanji began to have their homeland occupied extensively by European. The people from their homeland were resisted. For the sake of destroying Kuku Yalanji culture and religion, a Lutheran mission opened up on the Bloomfield River in 1886. But it failed within 16 years of its establishment. Forced removals of more Kuku Yalanjis were undertaken again in the 1930s. The police and army transported them in dire conditions to missions at Daintree and Mossman, in an attempt at a thorough cultural genocide. As late as 1957, a further attempt to ethnically cleanse and expel groups to a mission in Bloomfield took place. The gold rush lasted from 1873 to 1885. With the Palmer population of Chinese briefly skyrocketing to some 17,000 by 1877. Until the opportunities for quick takings began to dwindle, with most Europeans leaving by 1880, and the Chinese numbers dropping drastically to 3,000. In response to this overwhelming invasion and the subsequent ethnic cleansing and cultural genocide, the Kuku Yalanji set up a fierce resistance, which was none other but patriotic defense war. The defeated and robbed of their homeland Kuku Yalanji eventually were reduced to living in shanty towns on the outskirts of the areas which the foreign populations developed. Their culture and traditional skills suppressed. They were consigned to earn a living at the social bottom of the new economy, as imposed by European invaders and occupiers, often in trading their services with the Chinese. Kuku Yalanjis were paid in opium, which could be imported legally until 1906. According to contemporary European observers appointed as protectors of Aborigines, such as Walter Roth and Archibald Mustang, consumption of this drug in the form of opium ash mixed with water accounted for thousands of native deaths, far more than those due to other introduced maladies such as venereal disease. Modern historians now consider that these early reports, like the often brutal tales of the Kuku Yalanji hunting Chinese for cannibalistic feasting, whatever partial truth they contain, perhaps function to assuage any guilt European settlers may have felt for their key role in the ethnic cleansing and genocide of northern Queensland's indigenous ethnic groups and rightful owners of these lands. From 1897 to the 1960s, the Kuku Yalanji like other Australian ethnic groups to be placed under protection by placing them in Aboriginal reserves by the Australian government. The Kuku Yalanji are now concentrated predominantly in Mossman and Wujal. Survival was dependent on the exploitation of seasonal variation. It is believed that Kuku Yalanji lived in the rainforest region no later than 4,000 years ago. It is known that they had high population density and lived in semi-permanent gunyahs. Their staples for obtaining carbohydrates were the toxic seeds of cycas media, which were leached of their poisonous compounds before cooking. Two species of yam, with the variety known as bitter yam particularly sought after, supplemented by bitter walnut, candlenuts and kuranda kwandong. They classified the annual climatic cycle into 5 seasons. Early reports often wrote that the Kuku Yalanji were devoted to cannibalism, targeting in particular Chinese immigrants, whom they called Kubara or Mirang Bilan. It is not infrequent to encounter early accounts of the eating of parts of the dead, which however was a restricted practice related to ritual mortuary customs. The vivid narrations of They're killing their own women and children for eating to allay their hunger or of feasting on Chinese like manna from heaven, in popular works like that of Hector Holthaus, are now considered wild exaggerations, since the actual evidence is skimpy. Christopher Anderson, who transcribed one account by an elderly fully initiated Kuku Yalanji man, glosses the story by suggesting that, apart from the probably rare actual incidents human flesh consumption, the strong European bee